All right, Tyler Terry with Fulcrum Archery. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you right now about a basic overview on how to set up your vertical nock point using a spring steel rest. The reason that I'm mentioning that it's a spring steel is because right now this is a basic target setup, and you'll notice that there's a little bit of flex or some give in this, and that's important to know. You want to basically, the reason I'm going to touch on is that you got to match the strength of your launcher to the weight of the arrow, basically. So now that I've kind of covered that, you kind of know where we're at and why we're starting this. I've gone ahead and made sure that the timing of the bow is correct and that the bow is actually set up level, because ultimately that is going to change or have some weight on where your actual vertical point of your string is going to be. If the bow is not in time correct, that actually changed the position of your nocking point. So I've made sure that all of that is actually already set up. The bow's in time, the bow's sitting level, and I've kind of eyeballed the rest just to kind of set myself up, because I want to make sure right now as a starting point only that I'm running the arrow pretty much through the middle of the burger hole, if not just slightly above center of the burger hole. This is a PSC bow. It actually has tuning marks machined in the riser of the bow. You can see here and here. It has it for your vertical nock travel and your horizontal nock travel. But for right now, just as a speaking of general bows, as you're setting up just any bow, your burger hole is a great place to start, and that's where I would recommend anybody that's going to start a bow setup. Start off your burger hole and then work from there. So right now I'm going to try and run it. Ideally, I want to run it just a hair above center. I've got it eyeballed pretty close. We've got the bow leveled up. So right now I'm going to take the arrow and make sure that we're there, and then from there we're going to work into actually setting the nock point. So I've got it set up now. The bow's level, as you can see here. Set this on the arrow. Now once I actually level this arrow up, I can see that there's just a little bit of the burger hole showing underneath the arrow. That's letting me know that I'm running just above center. And if I look at the tuning mark machined in the riser, I'm running pretty much dead even with it, which is great. So that lets me know that I'm in a really good place to start. So what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to go ahead and use this to set my nock point for my D-loop. I've got a piece pre-cut here. This is BCY number 24 loop material. It's a real limp material, and the reason I like to use that is because it cuts down on the amount of torque that's actually put on the string when I'm at full draw. I want to make sure that I burn it down and have a good mushroom on there, so that way I have plenty of surface to actually hold the knot. And I'm going to snug this up, not to where it's super tight, but just so that way it's snug, so that way it'll keep the arrow in place. So from here, I can check here on this level that's making sure the bow is actually plumb. I can pull my D-loop down because it's just snug enough that way I can actually move it. So from here, I can tell the bow is level, and this is showing that the bow is actually just on the right mark of this level, which that lets me know that the bow is running slightly, the arrow actually is running slightly downhill. Now, just from tons of experience and setting up a lot of bows, most of the time you'll find that a bow is always going to kind of tune slightly downhill. You're going to get your best tear or best groups with the nock point just barely above center. So to start at that point is really good. Some of you may want to start with it dead 90 degrees, which basically means we would suck it down just a little more, and you can actually see now that the level is floating dead center, which actually matches the plumb of the bow. Just to kind of save myself some time, I'm going to go ahead and put it back up just a hair, so that way that bubble is touching that right mark ever so slightly. Because in my mind, I kind of think that inevitably this bow is going to work out to where it's going to tune somewhere in there pretty close. I might be within a 1/16 of an inch, and that's something that I can touch on the rest real quickly. Saves me a lot of time. From here, that's snug, so I'm going to leave it. Everything's sitting exactly where I want it. So from here, I'm going to add my actual nock point underneath the nock. The reason I'm only going to tie one is because this is a spring steel launcher, like I explained to you earlier. And when I tie this one nock on the bottom, what that's going to do is it's actually going to add some pressure to the bottom of the nock, which is going to aid in this arrow actually resting in that launcher better. Anybody that has ever drawn an arrow against a spring steel launcher knows that it's not always the easiest thing to do at first if the bow isn't set up correctly. If there's any knock pinch or anything that is going to grip this knock, you're going to have a hard time keeping that arrow in the launcher. By setting this up and putting a slight amount of pressure against the bottom of this knock, it's going to ensure that I'm going to be able to pick this bow up and draw it smoothly and not have any issues with my arrow actually climbing out of the launcher. So I'm going to go ahead and set my knock point. What I'm going to do here, this is basic 3D serving. It's a 17,000 serving. You can use Dacron string, you can use cotton thread. There's a lot of things you can use to tie knocking points with. What I'm going to do here as well is I want to make sure that it's real close to the bottom of this knock, but not actually putting a lot of pressure on it. So I'm going to just make sure that it's right against the bottom of it, and I'm going to tie it. There's probably about 10,000 space between that serving and my knock. Just because that way when it's at full draw, it's going to ensure that it's not putting too much pressure, but just enough to make sure that it's there. So I'm going to tie basic overhand knots. And they just have to be snug. They don't have to be super tight. And I'll tie it on each side of the string basically. You can see I tie one on the front, one on the back. And I'm going to tie these down until I get to where somewhere between, you know, a little over 1/8 of an inch, something like that, worth of knocks on there. Tie one more here on the bottom. All right, so you can see about how much thread I have tied on there because I don't want this to be a big, huge gap. I want it to stay pretty streamlined. Now from here, I'm actually going to overlap those that I just tied on there because I want to make the bottom portion of this knock set just a little bigger than the top. And I'll show you in just a second why I'm doing that. For one, it's going to add to the stability of this knock point and not allow it to move. But once I actually tie the bottom section of my D-loop, it's actually going to keep that D-loop from creeping over the knock and actually adding undue pressure to it, because we want a little pressure on the bottom of the arrow, but we don't want too much because then that's going to actually cause it to pinch the knock, which is going to really not help us tune the bow very much. So the bottom of this knock is a little fatter than it is on the top. From this point, I'm going to finish this with just a true square knot, okay? So that way it ensures that this top knot is not going to come undone. I'm going to cut these tails off. Go ahead and just kind of second check everything. The bow's level, the arrow's sitting exactly where it was before. So now I can go ahead and remove this arrow. I have just a slight tail here. So what I'm going to do from that point, you can take a piece of cardboard, a piece of paper, anything, kind of shield that D-loop material right there. Burn that down. Make sure that you get your knots cleaned up so that way they don't frizz or come untied. Because I don't want to get this too hot because it'll make it really brittle and then it kind of loses strength and it just creates some other issues. You don't want that knock point to be really stiff. I'm going to finish my knot on the bottom side here. Everybody shoots a little bit different D-loop length. So at this point, I kind of know, just because it's my personal bow, I'm going to set it up. I kind of know how long of a D-loop I run. I'm going to go ahead and cut that off and burn it. And the reason that I untie mine and redo this is to ensure the quality of the mushroom on the end of my D-loop and to make sure that my knot is clean and safe, because I don't want it to pull through, and I just want it to look as good as possible as well, because you don't want anything shoddy going on your bow. So, and another thing too is I don't want to get this so hot that it catches on fire. I'm just kind of setting it in the flame a little bit just to make sure that it ensures that it melts the thread. I let it cool slightly. I make sure that I have a good uniform knot on the end. Now I'm going to retie it. From there, I'm going to go ahead and cinch it up. Okay, now that this is all set up, I know that I'm not going to have to worry about any issues about this knock squeezing up and pinching my knock and actually causing the arrow to lift out of the rest. From this point, I can reestablish everything, put it back in the bow. The bow is still level. The arrow is running ever so slightly downhill. And I know that now when I draw this arrow back, there's just enough pressure here that's actually going to keep that arrow in the launcher, and it's going to keep me from having to fish it back on at full draw or actually let the bow down. we're running pretty much just slightly above center of the burger hole. And this is going to be a really good baseline to get you started. So from here I can move to basic paper tuning, making sure that my cam lean's all good. And that is going to give you a really great place to start with your basic target bow setup, with your D-loop, setting your vertical nock point, and a lizard tongue rest. Next time catch up, we're going to touch on setting up a drop away. We're probably going to set up a ripcord so that way you've got some idea there, and what it would be like if you have a double knocking point or something of that nature. We appreciate you tuning in.